As House Republicans prepare to assume leadership and swear in new members, they're also saying goodbye to some longtime colleagues. This includes Texas Republican Kevin Brady. He's stepping down after 26 years in office. He's a longtime leading member of the House Ways and Means Committee. He was also a major force in passing the 2017 Trump tax cuts. He is known inside Washington for working across the aisle with Democrats. Here's how Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal puts it. Quote, Kevin Brady during the Trump years was Kevin Brady during the Biden years. I trusted him. Congressman Brady joins me now for a bit of an exit interview. Sir, welcome back to Fox News Sunday and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Jillian.
So let's kick off with the House leadership struggle. A handful of Republicans have already committed to not backing McCarthy. Others say it's McCarthy or bust. Take a look at what Rep. David Valadao says. There's no plan B here. The plan is to get him elected as Speaker. At the end of the day, we could be there 2-3 days. It doesn't really matter. Politico is now reporting that a group of House Republicans have approached Steve Scalise quietly and told him, you got to be ready to take up the gavel. Is that true? Should he be ready?
So, look, my hope is that Kevin McCarthy is elected Speaker. He's led us into the majority. He's united us behind an agenda, the commitment to America. Frankly, he has worked so hard to get us in this place, and he's ready to lead. So, I'm hopeful we can unite as a conference. We have a big battle ahead, try to get this country back on the right track.
The reality of the math, as you well know, is he can only afford to lose 4 votes. 5 Republicans have already vowed, at least 5 have already vowed, not to vote for him. What would you advise in terms of concessions to make happen what you just laid out?
Well, look, I think Kevin McCarthy understands this conference in a big way. He's worked with with folks across the whole spectrum, and he's funded, frankly, many of these races to make sure that they are back to represent their district, and we are back, frankly, to stop this radical agenda. And so I'm confident he can pull these final votes together. It's not an easy job. Speaker Pelosi, if you may recall, 2 years ago had to sneak in several COVID-positive, quarantined members of her conference to try to cobble the votes together. It isn't easy being Speaker these days, but Kevin McCarthy, I believe, can unite us.
It is not easy. Some these days might call it an unenviable task. So let's talk about George Santos. The congressman-elect is now facing a slew of investigations, multiple accusations. He lied about everything from where he went to grade school to where he went to college, his religion, his employment history. So far, Republican leadership, though, no condemnation, largely silent altogether on the issue. Do you think that Kevin McCarthy should condemn him?
So, look, I think this is troubling in so many ways. Certainly, he has lied repeatedly. At the end of the day, though, this is a decision, whether he resigns or stays, that needs to be made between he and the voters who elected him. He's certainly going to have to consider resigning. He's got really 2 choices. I don't know this young man. He doesn't need my advice, surely. But, one, he can try to politically ride it out. We've seen that happen in Washington, D.C. Or he can take the tougher choice, which is, I think, look, own every lie that he's made, apologize to everyone and anyone for as long as it takes. But secondly, you got to change your life here. There's a real problem here. We're a country of second chances. And when people are willing to turn their life around and own up to this, then do what it takes to earn respect and trust again, we're willing to do that. So I'm hopeful, he chooses the right path here.
Looking for a yes or no answer on this, sir. You've chaired committees in the past. If you were chairing a committee that he was slated to serve on, would you feel comfortable having him as a member?
Well, right now, he would not be on a committee that I led. And frankly, he's got to take some huge steps if he wants to regain trust and respect in his district. At the end of the day, he's got to make that decision.
Talking about the former president's tax returns now, you railed against the Democrats' decision this week to release those. Let's play a quick look back.
Over our objections, in opposition, Democrats on the Ways and Means Committee have unleashed a dangerous new political weapon that overturns decades of privacy protections for average taxpayers. The era of political targeting and of Congress's enemies list is back.
As you well know, sir, it has been this tradition in American politics dating back to the late 60s. The presidents voluntarily, or candidates, release their tax returns. Why is it that President Trump, in your estimation, should be an exception to history?
Well, this isn't about whether President Trump should have released it. That's not the law. It's a tradition. And it's not what is in those tax returns. Frankly, that's between the taxpayer and the IRS. This is a dangerous new precedent. It overturns 50 years of protections for American taxpayers that began in the Watergate era. Now that's all changed. So simply the Ways and Means Chairman and the Senate Finance Chairman of either party has nearly unlimited power to target private citizens, not just public officials, not just political enemies, not just Supreme Court justices, but private Americans, to seize their tax returns and make them public, usually in an effort to embarrass or destroy them politically. And so every American ought to be frightened by this precedent because, as I said, the enemies list is back and you may well find yourself on it.
Take a listen to the former president in his own words here, sir. I'll get your reaction.
While I'm under audit, I won't do it. If I'm not under audit, I would do it. I had no problem with it. But while I'm under audit, I would not give my taxes. I would love to give them, but I'm not going to do it while I'm under audit. It's very simple.
Well, in the release, sir, there is no evidence that the president was under audit during the years he told the American people multiple times that he was, and used that as the justification to not release his returns voluntarily.
Well, in the returns we saw, he is under audit for all 6 of those tax return years, plus a number of 8, I think, of his business ventures that are affiliated as well. Those audits are not yet complete. That's accurate. But this is not the point here, Jillian. The point
sir,
here is,
as far as
for
we
the
know,
first
he
time,
was under audit from 2009 to 2013. He told the American people he was under audit when he was running for office.
So, to my point, all of those 6 years that have been released are still under audit. And the truth of the matter is, it isn't about whether he should release it or not. It is whether Americans should be targeted by members of Congress for political purposes and having their private taxpayer returns released and made public. This is the new reality. I think this is a dangerous new precedent, and every American, ought to be frightened.
Sir, I don't want to belabor the point. I just want to get some clarification here. You're saying you've seen evidence that the president was, in fact, under audit between 2015 and 2020. Is that right?
In the 6 years that of returns have been released, he's under audit by the IRS in all 6 years.
I want to turn to this now. Give you an opportunity here to reflect on your time in Washington. When you look back, what do you think Americans will remember most about the Trump years?
Well, I think you saw a very pro-growth agenda, and I'm proud of the work I did with the president on reforming the tax code, because we saw 6 million Americans lifted out of poverty. We saw household income grow more in 1 year, 2019, than in all 8 years under President Obama and Vice President Biden. We saw income inequality begin to shrink for the first time in half a century. We saw manufacturing jobs come back from overseas, and America leapfrogged most competitive economy in the world. That lifted people of color, blue-collar workers, people who'd been left behind under the old tax code, lifted them up. In fact, their wages were growing twice as fast as inflation, so different than what we see under President Biden. So that pro-growth, pro-security agenda, I think, pro-military agenda, I think, is a very strong one. I think that's what he'll be remembered for, certainly on the policy side of it.
You say that you're optimistic as you look forward for the country. You told the Houston Chronicle, I always sort of wish I could introduce America to the middle class in Congress, because I think they'd have more confidence in the institution. Right now, sir, as you know, House Republicans are planning to open the new Congress with a whole slew of investigations into President Biden, his family. Do you worry that looking backwards will take time and attention and energy away from solving current problems like inflation?
Yeah, so I think that's only one element of a very strong agenda. So House Republicans made it clear in the Commitment to America that we want a nation that is safe, an economy that is strong. We want a Washington that's accountable. We want a future built on freedom. And so, look, America's been in the dark the last 2 years about what their government is doing. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that needs to be addressed. But getting this economy back on track is job number one for Republicans. Creating a nation that's safe in our communities along the border, equally a priority for us. So I wouldn't be, frankly, misled by just one element holding Washington accountable, because this is an agenda that is so sorely lacking in America today. So, yeah, I am excited about the Republicans, the majority. And as I said, look, I'm optimistic about the future. I know who I work with in Congress. There is a middle class. You don't see them or hear them much because, like the middle class, they're serious about their jobs, Jillian. They work very hard. They're trying to do the right thing. And I think if people could see more of that working class, I think in Congress you would have more confidence, as I do.
Well, we can certainly hope that we will hear from them more in 2023. Congressman Brady, thank you so much for taking time for us today. Thank you for your service, and best of luck.
Thank you, ma'am. Take care.